everyone, this is Adriana
and Ioana,
and welcome to Health Hustle, where a success story meets life guidance. Now, if you're a teenager pondering in your life or someone who is seeking advice, come and join us as we chat with accomplished people about career, advice, mental health, and also how to stay focused.
Joining us today is well-known British actor, here as a jury for the film festival, the Galactic Imaginarium, none other than Miltos Yerolemon. How are you today?
I'm really well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
For
a
us
great
as well.
pleasure to be in Romania as well.
This is such an opportunity for us.
And we're very excited to talk with you today.
Okay, so
Some of you might know him as from Game of Thrones.
Yes, Sirio Farrell, the first sword of Pravos.
I'm so glad you
I thought I'd get that out of the way.
yes, we were so nervous how to pronounce this right.
But we would allow him to tell you more about himself. So.
Yeah, I have a question. I want to start the conversation. How would you describe yourself? Not career-wise, but imagine I'm a 5-year-old. How would you describe yourself?
Gosh, my goodness, this is all right. So this is now we're really asking questions. I love this podcast already. How would I describe myself? I would describe myself as a little bit of a man that doesn't really, a boy that doesn't really realise how old he's become. I think that's reality. I saw yesterday a T-shirt that said, I can't believe I'm as old as old people nowadays. It's like, because that's what literally, this is the thing you've got to look forward to, is that the one thing that people don't tell you is that kind of mentally and personality-wise, you don't change a lot. It's just your body that does, right? But I feel really good at the moment. It's been a kind of tough couple of years, to be completely honest with you, because since the pandemic and being out of work for such a long time, it obviously, I do a lot of theatre, so that was kind of one of the main things that it hit. So it's been kind of tough. So I would say that I've been a mixture of being incredibly happy and feeling incredibly lucky and privileged to have some of the experiences that I'm having. Like, my parents live in Cyprus, so I go to visit them. They live in a tiny village in the middle of nowhere. I've just recently moved, but at the same time, the constant worry about how is my career going, simply for the point of view of how do I pay the bills. These things are things that kind of really affect how I would describe myself. I'd say that I'm a mixture of very, very happy and then having crushing neurotic episodes where I think that I'll never work again. So I think this is, and I don't think I'm particularly unique in this, right? So
I think happiness is key, honestly. You mentioned happiness.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're happy, confident, I think you can do anything.
Yeah. I'm a cheery person. I just have moments like everyone does where you kind of
We all do.
think too much about what the consequences are.
So, my next question which is very important to me, is how did you know you wanted to be an actor? Like, why acting? Did you always know? Were your parents on board? Or was it, how did you do it?
I don't think I ever wanted to be an actor. I don't think it ever crossed my mind that I'd be an actor. I think one of my biggest things is that I wasn't very good academically at school. For one reason or another, and I don't really know why. I don't think I've really got to the bottom of it, but definitely I didn't have a very good time at school. I wasn't one of those children who was happy at school. I was always like, kind of in a mild state of feeling terrorized, right? That's how I felt, which is obviously an overstatement. But you're a child. This is sometimes you kind of can I was one of those kids that it's very easy to catastrophize, right? But the thing that connected me to school, the one thing that connected me to school, was when I met a great English teacher who ran amateur dramatics. So I started doing plays at school, and that was my way in. That was the way that I felt like I could connect with school. And although I wasn't great academically, I was I suddenly found my creative kind of expression, right? Even as a 9-year-old, I remember being a 9-year-old and doing some weird physical mime routine, and it was like that was my very first acting job I ever did. But despite all that, it never crossed my mind that I was going to be an actor. As far as I was concerned, it was just going to be a hobby that just got out of control.
I'm a drama kid and an acting student.
Right.
Like I said, I've done that before, and I thought at one point I'm going to be an actress. I would envision myself out there, but I also said, oh, it's just going to be a hobby. So I don't know what can happen in the future, but I have a question. So life obviously has ups and downs, and I think that it's such a good skill to know how to overcome those unfortunate situations or challenges. And I'm sure that you had ups and downs in your personal life as well as your career.
Of course, yeah, of course.
How did you manage to overcome those and keep doing what you did?
Sometimes it's simply by just, putting one foot in front of the other, like sometimes it's simply patience, being patient with yourself. I think also, and Darius Hopper, who is running the Galactic Imaginarium Film Festival, which I'm a judge of, he is my inspiration, because this man has a lot of stress to deal with. Like every day there's something going wrong, or some fire he has to put out. But I've never seen a man who can cope with it better than this man, like with a smile on his face. He has a great philosophy, and I think sometimes if you're lucky enough to know people that keep you in your mind in perspective, that remind you that, you know what, it's easy to catastrophize and to make, obviously there's many terrible things that could happen to you, and there's always going to be stressful situations or very upsetting situations that you deal with, but the most important thing I think is to be patient with yourself. Sometimes that what you need more than anything is just time, right? To be able to reflect, to get a sense of perspective, and this is very important because recently went through this because of the pandemic and for many reasons, and I always feel like having perspective, just to remind yourself the things that are good in your life, and you need to remember those things, and because it's easy to be distracted by the thing that is, closest to your face, the thing that is making you feel the most stressed. So in a way, it's like you need space, time, and of course, if you're lucky enough to have a support network that reminds you that it isn't as bad as it is. And like time will heal a lot of things, and perspective is also very important.
I mean, if there is something that I learned, I recently had a downfall, and some interpreted it as a fail, but I don't do that. I mean, I take situations and downfalls as a source of new information, and
as part of the journey. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not
yeah,
the
it's
end of
becoming
it.
better. It's not.
Yeah,
It's
and
learning.
this is a very important thing to remind me of, is that there is a big thing, especially in the professional I work in, where everything is judged all the time, constantly. Like there is like nothing that you can't do without other. Because of course you're doing something. It's not a private thing with that I do. It's something that, and I always find it very difficult to watch myself in things. And when people talk to me about what did you think of this thing you did, I only know what the experience of filming it is, because most of the time I try to avoid watching it. For me, the process is the kind of the most important thing. And I can be very self-conscious of myself and very self-judgmental about things that I do, that no one else would notice about except me. But the real important thing is to be able to accept what you do and not look at things like failure, or to look at it in that way, because the reality is that unless you're willing to risk a little, unless you're willing to put yourself in a position where you will fail, you're never going to really understand what your potential is.
Yeah, I think this is
Because we it's very
great
easy
advice.
to stay in your comfort zone. And to be honest, I have a very strange relationship with my career, because I can't bear doing things that I find too easy. I get bored very, very easily. But yet, obviously, I choose to do things that push me outside my comfort zone, which I don't like. But I have to, maybe it's some form of masochism in me, but I really need to do that, because I think for me, especially as far as, you know, the art that I make, you know, movies, TV, theatre, whatever it is, it's about, I want to do things that I'm proud of. I don't want to do things that are easy. I want to do things that feel like it costs a little, because what we do when we create art is not, it doesn't always have to be a crowd-pleasing experience. Like, my favourite quote about art is that art should comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. And I think, as far as I'm concerned, that's my motto for what I do in everything in my life.
I remember in an interview, you said that art is, because you were talking about art, art is unpredictable. I mean, you have a group of people, but you don't know the outcome.
You can have a script that everyone has signed off, that people have worked for years on, and then as soon as you start putting it in front of the camera or on stage, it starts to change. As soon as the words start to come out of other people's mouths, it starts to change. And yeah, then it kind of takes on its own life, because it stops being one thing and becomes a collaborative thing.
Yeah.
And it becomes the sum of every single person's contribution. So yeah, that is the unpredictable thing about it. The only thing you can kind of control is the people you get involved in a project.
Yeah.
And then you just have to trust them. Like, I believe the best directors are the ones who employ people that they trust. So that you employ people and you let them really express their potential as much, and you give them the environment to be able to feel comfortable, fearless, all of those things, so that they can basically do, you know, because actors, especially actors, they need to kind of go somewhere.
Yeah.
And you only can do that if you're kind of allowed to be a little bit free. You know, I think the best actors are the ones who have a certain relaxation. So I think one of the biggest jobs that I have as an actor is to find a place where I'm completely relaxed. Not a place where I think I'm doing the best performance, or that I've learned my lines perfectly, or that I know the character inside out. It's about, how do I let something happen that almost surprises me. Because I think instinct is really important when it comes to being creative. You know.
I agree. I mean, this for us is a success, and
Yes.
it was instinct. I just
Yeah,
went
there
on
you go.
Facebook and I saw it, I was like, oh my god, this is such an opportunity, and I just
Yeah,
did what
it's
I
really
could.
it's about kind of putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, even if you don't like it, but also to listen to yourself. And I think the more you do it, the what experience teaches you is it just learns to kind of tune your ear, to kind of listen to yourself a bit more, and not listen to the voices that go, you can't do this. What on earth are you playing at? Really? Is that what you're going to do? You know, so you need to get rid, because those voices are always there, you know.
It depends on how you act on them. And I really loved your motto, your mantra that you said, because I'm a firm believer that art is supposed to stir a reaction.
Yeah.
And it obviously won't be a positive reaction for everybody, but it's still art. And
Yeah, I've done some incredibly, I've done shows, and some of them are not particularly, narratively driven things. Sometimes they're very experimental. I remember doing a play all about, awful subjects like suicide, but it wasn't done in a very, it wasn't done in a naturalistic way. It was very stylized. We were sitting on 4 chairs, and we read monologues that had been collated from writers throughout history who'd written about their mental health and their crises that they've suffered, that they've expressed through writing. So we read these monologues, and behind us there was a quartet, a string quartet, which playing really either beautiful classical music accompanying it, or very, very modern, very abrasive music. And a stack of chairs behind us that at some point all collapsed behind. I mean, it was wild. When I was doing this show, I was like, I have no idea what people are going to think about it, but I feel really connected to it. I really connect to what I'm doing, you know. And it turned out to be a wonderful show, you know. But I never knew what it must be like to watch a show like that. And that's interesting, because I could only understand it from being inside it, but I couldn't quite put myself in a place where I knew what it was like as an audience member. Because every audience member reacted to it differently, because it was one of those really personal shows that everyone took something different away from it, depending on their own experiences.
Now we'd want to move on to your schedule, because it's also, we want to talk about the success schedule of each person, and obviously you've had very strict schedules with work. How do you do that? Do you have that in your personal life? Do you have a schedule you follow, or routine building up to a job, or something that keeps you successful?
You're going to be so disappointed in me. I'm one of those people that I channel all my focus into my work, so I'm pretty disorganized in my general kind of day-to-day activities. I have a dog, and my little Dachshund, my little Louis sausage dog, he is pretty much the only thing that gives me routine, because he's the one who needs to wake up at 6 o'clock every morning, has to eat his food at a certain time, you know, like that is my routine. If it wasn't for him, I'd pretty much be very disorganized, you know, but it's because I put all my energy into my work, so it means that if you see me at work, I'm really organized. I'm never late. I'm always prepared. I'm like almost like two different people. But if you saw me at home, I mean, you know, it's not like I'm a slob or anything, right? I cook, I clean my own house, things like that. You know, I'm a modern man in that respect. But just in general organization and kind of keeping yourself like, especially because I don't have a 9-to-5 job, where I have sometimes weeks where I have, you know, time just to myself. I think I could use that time much more. I could have a million projects like Darius Hopov, who runs this sci-fi. I mean, this man is multi-talented. You know, he really is an inspiration to me. But he also makes me feel like I definitely don't use my time as efficiently as I can. But yeah, that's I think that's slightly disappointing. But it just means that I put all of that real focus goes into me as a professional actor, let's say.
So for the parents who are watching, can still be successful without a schedule, without a daily schedule. Is that
as long as you, it's like I don't know. I feel like I'm talking myself into a terrible hole here, but it's definitely that thing of it's like taking your work, taking what you do seriously. It's like whatever you do. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter whether I'm doing a job with Samuel Jackson or, you know, people that I feel starstruck about working with, right? It's about everyone takes what we do very seriously, so we treat it as a job. And like anything, it can become a job. It can become monotonous. Yeah. It can become incredibly stressful. It can be very time consuming, and all of those things that sometimes takes the sheen off the exciting experience, right? Because this is ultimately we have to treat it like a job. Otherwise, we'd all be like screaming our heads off out of excitement every day. You know, I imagine. You know, I'm thrilled that I get to, you know, travel the world and meet people like you and have amazing experiences, let alone anything else that I do. But I think taking what you do seriously and really understanding it. It's also the advice I would give to all, you know, young people who want to go into the creative industries, is that you need a certain certain belief in yourself, a certain understanding of why you do it. I don't think this is something that I've discovered recently. I didn't discover it until recently. But what I really needed is to understand why I do what I do. It's very easy when you become successful to take every job that you're offered, which is what I ended up doing. But I realised that I was doing things that I think I was just saying yes to it because I just wanted to work. Is that Darius Hupov with his phone? Will you turn that off? It's very loud. There you go. He's doing it deliberately now, and he. There you go. He's trolling me now. and the reality is that I think it's about wanting to be in a situation where you're always you know why you're doing it. So for me, it was a question of not accepting every job that I did because I wanted to make sure that every job I did was something I felt proud about. You know, like I wanted to do good work. I didn't just want to keep working because I either needed the money or you just need to keep working. Of course you need to keep working. It's good for your mental health, let alone anything else. But I realised that as an artist, as an actor, what I really needed to do is make sure that I chose work and not just said yes to everything. And that was a really important lesson that I learned because I realised that there were some jobs aren't fulfilling. You know, I'd rather wash dishes in a restaurant. Not like let me tell you, my dad had a restaurant for 25 years, so I did a lot of that. But I'd rather do that than to commit myself to a creative project which I wasn't really committed to. Also, let's also remember there's a lot of competition out there, and I think we owe it to other actors and other artists that if we don't feel completely connected to what we want to do, there'll be someone else who will, and we should give that person that chance. You know, don't hog the work. That's what I say. Don't hold the work like this. I've always been one of those actors that if I hear about an audition and I don't think I'm right for it, and I know someone that is, I'll be immediately on the phone and go, "You've got to get your agent to tell you about this job because I don't think I'm right for it, but you'd be brilliant, right?" You know, so. We have to be collaborative. It's a community, you know. We only operate successfully when we kind of collaborate.
Yeah, obviously. Well, I wanted to ask you about a valuable lesson that you learned, but you kind of tackled on that.
Okay.
So I'm gonna move on to how do you balance your professional life with your personal life, mental health wise?
Wow, that's hard. That's hard. That's really hard. I think it's difficult because I don't know about how you feel about the world as a young person, but I kind of feel like, is this really, this doesn't feel like we're kind of in a particularly healthy situation, like we're looking at how politics has kind of evolved over the social media as well has kind of contributed to it. So there's a lot to kind of worry about, and there's a lot that can kind of get in the way of us, enjoying life, like living life, like really living life. We can find ourselves too much on our phones, we can find ourselves too much on forums and discussion groups and a million things that will kind of make you just lose all perspective, this thing about perspective. It becomes, this is the issue, the most important issue. But actually the reality is that how do you find a balance? And I think the only way you can find a balance is reconnecting with nature. To be honest, it sounds incredibly like trite. Like I am a hippie, all right, I'd admit it. But I'm really lucky. My parents live in Cyprus. They live in a tiny village in the middle of nowhere. My dad has a little farm, makes olive oil. For me, that is the place where I go, where I reconnect with the things that I can see and taste and hear, and that to me is like, that's how I ground myself. That's when I feel at my most vulnerable or most kind of chaotic, mental health wise. That is the place that calms me or kind of gives me perspective. And I don't think you need to go to Cyprus or have family that live in the middle of nowhere to do that. I think it just simply is a case of sometimes we need to switch off from the world that we have created. And when I say created, by our social media apps and the way that we connect with the world, the outside world, usually is through our phones in many ways. You know, I mean, I it's like, how do you even have telephone conversations? We were like WhatsApping all the time nowadays, you know.
I mean, I think
When my phone rings, it's like, oh my God, what am I doing? Someone's calling me, what shall I do?
I think we can both agree that it's so easy to lose yourself these days with the technology that we have. I mean, everyone has their like own intention, and I don't think,
Of course.
you know, it's hard to just
And I think, you know, we can't put that genie back in the bottle. But what we can do is create a balance, like find the antidote. And the antidote is to do the opposite of that. And I think that is simply, as simple as I've said it. It's just reconnect with nature, recreate with the real world, the things you taste and feel and see and experience. That to me, and also other human beings as well. You know, that is the most important thing. I think we need to to nurture those relationships again. We all have them. Some people have fantastic relationships with their friends. I can sometimes end up not seeing people except when I'm working. Like my most social activity is when I'm in a group of people on a film set. Usually when I'm not working, it's just me and my dog. But that's okay. I have company, right?
So we're a bit short on time. So Ioana,
as a last question, as a closure, what would be one piece of advice that you would give to our generation, or that you would give yourself when you were younger with the knowledge you have now?
It's not to. I think I had a very overactive imagination, and what am I talking about? I still have a very overactive imagination, and so it was very easy for me to, to go down spiraling tunnels of kind of self-doubt or getting really focused on one thing, like whether it's, let's just choose something like, or what's going on with the climate and things like that we kind of all worry about. The reality is that you have to control the things you can control and let go of the things you can't. Because when I was a child, I think I worried quite a lot. I think this is why I wasn't. You go to school, most kids are kind of like happy. They don't realise just how crushing it can be. I found it like really oppressive. And I think I was completely unusual in that respect. I don't think it was normal. It wasn't like the school I went to was kind of some workhouse. It wasn't like that at all. The teachers were very nice. It was just how I perceived it.
Yeah.
And what I would say is that don't let that become overwhelming. Don't, and also what I would say is, control the things you control and let go of everything that you can't. Because there isn't much you can do about that. But there is plenty that you can control. There's plenty of things that you can put your mind to that you have autonomy over. And those are the things that you really need to focus on, not the stuff that you can't.
Well, great advice. But thank you so much for being here with us today. This is such an opportunity for us as we're about to make our final decision where we go to university.
Oh wow, so you're at that stage.
Yes,
wow.
This is wonderful.
And we're both art students as well, and what you said about being overwhelmed and creativity really resonates with us.
It's hard, it's really hard, and to be honest, it never gets better. What does get better is your ability to deal with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because experience teaches you how to cope with any stressful situation. Because every situation will be stressful, because it's like going to a new school every single time you start a new job. Sometimes you're lucky and you work with actors and directors that you've worked with before. It's a natural smaller community than you think it is. But most of the time it always feels like I'm the rabbit in the headlines turning up to do my scene. Everyone else has been there for months on set. But the difference is that you just learn how to kind of cope with that. You push that kind of the self-doubt away, and you just remember that you're there for a reason, that you wouldn't be there if someone hadn't said, yeah, we want that person.
I think that's about it. Thank you
Thank you
again
so
so
much.
much.
Pleasure.
And thank you for watching.
Yeah, thank you.